Hi everyone, today I'm going to do something that I always enjoy, and that is to start a new watercolor palette, and I thought I'd show you how I put it all together. The palette I'm going to fill today is called a Mijello Fusion palette. I really enjoy this palette and it is really good quality. It has got 18 wells inside of it, and there is this removable tray on the inside as well for additional mixing area. What I like most about this style of palette is the sloping wells. They are very spacious. I put the paints on the deepest part of the wells here and then spray them to use them. But I find this style of well really is the kindest on your brushes because you're not scrubbing the brushes against the edges of any of the plastic edges when you are using it. I recently finished all of the paints inside of this palette and have decided to change up my color choices. So I've rinsed the whole palette out and I'm going to start again. Some of the paints have stained some of the wells, but I'm not too worried about that. Now let me talk about my color choices. I'm putting this palette together to take away on holiday with me. It's not going to be my everyday studio palette, but just an on-the-go palette. I also wanted to use up some of the tubes of paint that I've got in my box that I don't really use anymore because I use mainly my Daniel Smith paints when I'm in the studio. So I've pulled these out and I'm going to try and put together a nice coherent palette of colors. The brands that I'm putting together in this palette today include the Sennelier La Petite Aquarelle Student Grade paints. I've got a couple of Mijello Mission Gold Professional paints, Winsor Newton Cotman paints, which is the student range paints. This Silpakorn range is made in Thailand. I've got some Daniel Smiths that I'm going to put in as well. With regards to my color choices, I've really just had a look at my larger range of paints that I've got in my studio and then had a look at the colors that I use most frequently, and those are going to be things that I'm going to put in my palette. So my choices might not be the same as yours, but essentially if I have a look in my yellows, I've got a light and a darker yellow. I've got a true red and then a slightly pinkish red, a purple, a range of blues including indigo, which is very dark. I've got 3 greens, yellow ochre, raw umber, burnt sienna, burnt umber, sepia, and Payne's grey. But I'll put a list of my color choices in the description box below. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work through the wells and I'm going to squeeze a little bit of each of the paints into each of the wells. Here, this does happen often, particularly if the tube has been sitting for a while. Sometimes the binder rises to the top of the tube, and so in Sennelier's case the binder is a honey-based binder, but sometimes in the other brands there might be some gum arabic as well. You've got choices. You can leave it and then squeeze some more paint in and then mix it together with a toothpick. I do find that the binder does slow down the drying rate of the paint somewhat. And because I'm going on holiday in a day or two's time, I'm just going to get rid of some of that, particularly as this is the honey-based binder and it's going to take a while to dry. You can then also just try and mix it up in the tube first so that it doesn't separate. You can see the binder is mixed in with the paint now. Now that I've dropped all of the colors into the wells, I could simply just leave them like this to dry, but I'm a little bit of a stickler for neatness, and also they do dry a little bit quicker if they are thinner. So I'm going to go through with a toothpick and just smooth out the colors a little bit, just to neaten them up and also to allow them to dry quicker. I'm going to leave the top of each one clear so that it is available for mixing when I spray them. If you're wondering about the order of the colors in the palette and how I've decided on their arrangement, I've taken my Daniel Smith colors that I've got in my studio. These are already ranked in the order that Daniel Smith places them on their website. So this is not the full range, but these are the colors that I own. And then I've taken the colors that I've chosen here and then put the ones that I've chosen in that same order inside the palette. There's really no right or wrong. It's just an order that I'm familiar with, so I kind of know where to look for particular colors. I'm going to leave these colors to dry before I close the palette. It might take a day or two. And to stop the dust getting in them overnight whilst they dry, I will just put something to keep the palette ajar. Now that my paints aren't very wet anymore, they are ready for me to make a swatch card for the colors that I've got in the palette. What I've made here is a card of cold pressed paper that will easily fit into the lid of the box when I'm traveling. And I've divided it up into the same number of wells as there are in the palette and kept the shape roughly the same. I've then put in the name of each of the colors here. And now I'm going to do a swatch of each of the colors in their places. I'm going to do every second one and allow them to dry, and then I'll come back and do the ones in between. So I'm going to start with quite a weak consistency of the color. And then so that I can see the full range of what this color can do, whilst that is still wet, I'm going to work wet and wet and start with a darker edge here and then blend it out. Now that the first batch of colors is dry, I'm going to swatch the second batch. So there we go, that's all dry and ready to transport. This palette comes with this extra plastic lid, which I'm just going to use to help it stay separate from the paints. So I will transport it like that when I'm on the move and then take it out when I get to location. I hope that this little session has been informative in how to set up a new palette. If you've got any other questions about what I've done today or about watercolor in general, drop them in the comments box below and I'll make sure to answer them. Until next time, bye for now.